Hello, friends of Airtable. Welcome to another video. Today we talk about scripts again. This wasn't supposed to be a channel about scripting only, but so far I'm only making videos about scripting. Whatever, let's do it again. Airtable has a limit of 50 records that you can only create at a time, and there's a way of how to circumvent that. So let's get into it. So we're here in Airtable. We have an empty base. I called this create more than 50 records because that's what we're trying to do. There's a table, which is with an ID and a name, and we have our scripting app. Let's go into the scripting app. I've written a little bit of an outline. We want to fetch some data. We want to create a records array, and we want to create those records. We need some data, so let's get some random data. I found this random data generator provided by Retool. Cool, very cool company as well, and very cool tool as well. We type a name here because that's what we get. We get an ID and a name, and we want actually 100 rows. See, this looks good. We go on generate API, and we get an endpoint which we can use to fetch the data. Let's say const response await fetch. Await fetch like this, and let's see what comes back there. Response.json. Great, so as we can see here on the right side, we get an array of 100 objects, and the objects look like this. They have an ID and a name. And this ID and name we want to save in our table, and we want to create all of those 100 objects and create 100 records in Airtable. So the issue, first issue is that this doesn't look like what the array or the objects that we need to pass into the create records async function in Airtable. So let's check the documentation down here. You can see here the create records async, and we need to pass it an array of objects, and in every object there's another fields object. So let's create that array, which we're then passing to that function. Before we do that, let's actually save our result here. Const result, await response.json. Looks good. And now what we want to do, we want to map over this array with those objects and want to create our records array or create array. Result. Let's actually call this results. Results.map. Let's call them obj. So we are mapping over every object. Let's not do this as a one-liner, but let's open it like this. And for every object, we're returning an object. That is this one. And in there are some fields. It's again an object. And now we actually need to give it the field name and what's in there. So the first field name is ID. And there we want obj.id. And then we have a name. And there we want obj.name. Let's see how that looks like. Console log, create array. We get 100 objects back. That's good. Every object, or an array of 100 objects, every object has a fields object, and there's an ID and a name. Perfect. So this we can pass into our function. Actually, we need to get our table first. We see const table is base.getTable table1. And then await table create records async, and now we just pass our array. And let's see what's happening then. Oof, an error. Request exceeds maximum batch size limit of 50 items. Exactly what we wanted to show. As you can also read here in the documentation, we're only allowed to create 50 records at a time. And if we have more than 50 records, we need to do something. So let's go into our base, and we can see that not even the first 50 have been created. So basically, Airtable saw It's more than 50, let's not do anything. The way we do that is, or let's say the standard way that I see people in the Airtable scripting world do, is using a while loop. So we say while the create array dot length is bigger than 0, do something. And what we do is we use our create records async, but we only pass it the first 50. And then we need to change our create array to not include those anymore that we've already passed. So we say create array is create array dot slice 50. And let's go into the documentation, because here we can see that basically what slice does is it returns a shallow copy of a portion array into a new array object selected from start to end and not included with start and end representing the index of items in that array. So if we only pass it one parameter, then we say, where do you want to start now? So basically what we're doing here is we tell it, change the create array dot slice. It creates a copy, so we save that copy again in the create array, and this time only start at 50. So everything we've passed before is therefore not included in that new array anymore. And this is going to continue as long as this is not true anymore. So basically until the last item in the array. And there's an error here, which is basically that we cannot assign this to a constant. So we need to change this into a let. And if we run this, this should work. Let's see. Looks good, no error. Let's check our base. Perfect. And there we have our 100 records. Hope you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments below and see you next time.